You are 7 years old, and there is a shape at the end of your bed. It is not moving. It does not need to move. You already know, with a certainty that has no evidence behind it, that it is watching you. Your heart is doing something your heart has never done before school taught you words like heart rate. It is simply reacting fast, hard, insistent, as if your body already knows something your mind is not caught up to yet. You do not remember deciding to be afraid. The fear arrived first. The thinking came after. That gap, the space between the fear and the thought, is where this story lives. Because somewhere in that gap, your brain built a monster. And it built it out of nothing. No predator. No intruder. No object in the room that wasn't there in daylight. Just darkness and a mind that would not stay quiet inside it. Most people assume nightmares are malfunctions, glitches, static, the mind idling without purpose while the body repairs itself. That is not what the evidence shows. The brain during sleep is not resting. It is rehearsing. In laboratories where researchers have spent decades recording the electrical weather of sleeping brains, one finding keeps resurfacing, uninvited, refusing to be explained away. The regions most active during nightmares are not random. They're the same regions that activate when a human being is in real, waking danger. The amygdala, the threat detection core, buried deep beneath the folds of newer, more rational tissue that, in the timeline of your species, is barely a few 100,000 years old. A late arrival, a guest in an old house. While you sleep, that older structure does not sleep with you. It keeps working. It keeps scanning. And when it cannot find a real threat to respond to, it appears to build one. This is not unique to you. It is not unique to any single mind, any single culture, any single century. Every human society ever studied, separated by ocean, by language, by 10,000 years of divergent history, independently reports the same experience, a presence in the dark, a weight on the chest, a figure that watches without moving. The Norse called it a mare. The Newfoundlanders called it the old hag. In parts of Southeast Asia, they still describe a spirit that sits on the sleeper's chest and steals their breath. Different names, different mythologies, the same architecture of fear, appearing again and again, independently invented by minds that never spoke to one another. Which raises a question that should unsettle you more than any ghost story. If the monster is not real, why does every human brain, regardless of geography, regardless of belief, seem to build the same one? In the 1980s, sleep researchers began mapping a phenomenon that had existed, unnamed and unexplained, for as long as humans had slept, a state where the body is paralyzed but the mind is awake. Sleep paralysis. During REM sleep, the brain deliberately shuts off the signal that would let your muscles move. This is not a defect. It is a safety mechanism, a lock installed so that whatever you do in your dreams, you cannot act it out in the physical world. Without it, people would run from dream predators through their actual bedrooms, fight dream enemies with their actual fists. But occasionally, the mind wakes before the lock releases. The eyes can open. The room is real, but the body will not obey. And into that terrifying gap, awake, aware, paralyzed, the threat detection system does something researchers still do not fully understand. It does not go quiet. It escalates. Denied any real information about what is happening, it fills the silence with the worst possible explanation. A presence. A weight. Something in the room. The brain, faced with an unexplained threat to survival, does not default to calm. It defaults to worst case. That is not a flaw in the system. That is the system working exactly as it was built to. Consider, for a moment, what your ancestors were during the 10 hours of darkness that fell every single night for hundreds of thousands of years before electric light existed. They were prey, not metaphorically, literally. A human being asleep on open ground or at the mouth of a cave was one of the most vulnerable configurations a large mammal could be in, blind, immobile, and silent for a third of every day of their existence. In that world, a nervous system that assumed danger was cheap. A nervous system that assumed safety was expensive, potentially fatally expensive. The cost of imagining a predator that wasn't there was a bad night's sleep. The cost of failing to imagine a predator that was there was death and the end of every gene you carried. Natural selection does not reward accuracy. It rewards survival. And across enough generations, a mind that defaults to threat, even in the absence of threat, will always outcompete a mind that defaults to calm. You are not imagining monsters because something is wrong with you. You are imagining monsters because for the overwhelming majority of the time your species has existed, the minds that didn't imagine them did not live long enough to pass that trait forward. The monster in the dark is not a malfunction. It is an inheritance. Here is where the story stops being about biology and starts being about something closer to tragedy. The world that built this threat detection system no longer exists. The predators are gone. The open, unguarded darkness is gone. Most human beings alive today will never, in their entire lives, face a genuine nocturnal threat to their survival. But the system built to detect that threat is still running. Every night, in every one of us, it has no enemy to find. So, researchers increasingly suspect it manufactures one from the raw material available. Unresolved fear, unprocessed stress, fragments of memory that the conscious mind has not yet made peace with. The monster at the end of the bed is not a message from outside you. It may be the oldest, most literal-minded part of your own brain, still standing guard over a world that stopped needing guarding a very long time ago, and still finding, somehow, something to be afraid of. There is a theory gaining increasing support among sleep researchers that reframes the nightmare entirely. Not as malfunction, not even as leftover instinct, as rehearsal. Under this model, sometimes called threat simulation theory, the dreaming brain is not idling. It is running a low-cost simulation of danger, practicing fear responses in an environment where failure carries no real consequence. People who have experienced genuine trauma, the data shows, do not dream less about threat. They dream more about it, as if the brain, having encountered real danger once, increases its training load, running the scenario again and again in the safety of unconsciousness. Which means the nightmare is not the enemy of your peace. It might be the price of your survival. Every monster you have ever met at 3 a.m. may have been, in some sense, on your side, a strange, unwanted ally, drilling you for a war most of us will thankfully never have to fight. Pull back further, and the nightmare stops being a story about one anxious mind in the dark. It becomes a story about what a mind is. You believe, most of the time, that you experience reality directly, that your eyes report the room, and your brain simply displays it like a screen showing what a camera sees. That is not what is happening, and it has never been what is happening. Your brain does not show you the world. It builds a model of the world, using whatever fragments of sensory data it can gather, and it fills every gap in that data with prediction, assumption, and inherited pattern. Most of the time, the gaps are small, and the model is accurate enough that you never notice the seams. But at night, with the eyes offering nothing, the body offering nothing, the ancient threat system left alone with an empty room, the gaps become enormous. And the same machinery that quietly, invisibly constructs your entire waking experience of reality is left to fill that darkness with whatever it has: fear, memory, instinct, and the deep evolutionary residue of every ancestor who almost didn't survive the night. The monster at the end of your bed was never an intruder into your perception. It was a demonstration of it. So the next time something sits at the edge of your vision in the dark, heavy, still, watching, consider what you are actually witnessing. Not a ghost, not a haunting, a 400,000-year-old survival system, still faithfully performing its duty, still standing watch over a species that has, for the most part, already won the war it was built to fight. It does not know the danger is gone. It was never designed to know that. It was only designed to never, ever assume that it was. And so it waits there still, night after night, generation after generation, guarding a door that nothing dangerous has come through in a very long time, unable to stand down, because somewhere in its architecture is the memory of every ancestor who stood down too soon. The monster was never trying to hurt you. It has been trying this entire time in the only language it has ever known to keep you alive.